The Garden of Eden myth is an ancient technology which, when we truly understand it, understand means that our conscious rational mind and our subconscious intuitive mind are working together. So when we truly understand the Garden of Eden myth, we can bring ourselves back into the Garden of Eden, into the place that the ancients were pointing towards. The Garden of Eden is the garden of ether, the field of ether that we live in, that gives rise to this experience that you're having right now. Ether is the most subtle of all the elements. It's the primary element, space. But it's not, space isn't just a vacuum. Space is an element itself. Very, very subtle element which gives rise to the four grosser elements: air, fire, water and earth. And Nikola Tesla, was always looking for ways, maybe he found a way, of tapping this ether, this Eden energy, because it's a limitless field of miraculous possibilities, never runs out. So when we're living in the Garden of Eden, the Garden of Ether, then life is limitless, life is beautiful and magical. But in that story, God, and God is us at our most primal level. If we think about God, the Father, the Son and the Holy Ghost, this is us. This is the ancient Judaic and Christian way of understanding who we are. God, the Father, is us at our most creative and primal, unknowable self. The Son is the awareness, the conscious awareness that comes out of this unknowable primal essence that we are. And the Holy Ghost is the energy, the ether, the prana, the chi, that forms our experience. So beautiful, the Father, Son and the Holy Ghost, the Holy Trinity. So in the story, in the myth, God creates Adam and Eve, and Adam is the Son. Adam is Atman. Atman is, in the Vedic tradition, Atman is the differentiated aspect of God, what they call Brahman. Brahman would be the farmer, the father, and Atman is the son. Now, there are countless sons. There's a son here, awareness here. There's an awareness in the listener. Countless, billions and billions and countless billions and trillions of Atmans. There isn't just one Adam or Atman, because it's all happening right now. So Adam is awareness. Adam is the son, Atman. And Eve is the body of awareness. Okay? So whether you're a man or a woman, your experiential self, your objective self, is the feminine part of you, and your subjective self, your awareness self, is the masculine, projective part of you, which fills your experience with awareness. Okay, masculine and feminine. So there we have it. Adam is Atman, which is awareness, and Eve is our body, which enables awareness to have what we call a human experience. So God, us, tells us at the level of awareness and body, in this limitless field of ether, this limitless Garden of Eden, you can do whatever you want, but you must not eat the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. You can do whatever you want, but don't do that, don't eat that. Okay? Now let's just come back a little bit. The Garden of Eden was said to be in the east. Now, the east is a metaphor, it's an allegory, it's pointing towards the fact that the sun rises in the east. And when the sun rises, it's still kind of innocent, isn't it? It's still childlike. It's still new. It has that kind of beginner mind. It's not thinking that it knows anything yet. Okay? So this is why the Garden of Ether is in the east. It's when we can only live in this field of limitless possibilities, when our mind is like a child mind, a baby mind. Okay? And from the Garden of Eden, 4 rivers flow. Now these are the 4 elements, air, fire, water and earth. So, yeah, right, so back to the story. God tells Adam and Eve, you can do whatever you want, but you can't eat that fruit. Now, the fruit of the knowledge of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil is thinking. That's what it is. It's when we're living in the Garden of Ether right now, we're kind of aware of the space. We're spacious. It's almost like we don't have a finite form. We're completely open, and you can experience this right now by feeling the sensation of your body from head to feet, front to back, side to side, open to the full field of what you can hear and what you can see. So it's like every part of your body, every cell in your body is aware of what's being seen and heard. And when we come into this place, this childlike place, this baby place, before the mind starts saying, well, this is better than that, and I don't like this so much, then we're in the Garden of Ether. We're in this limitless field of possibilities. But as soon as we start looking at one thing or another and saying this is better than that, then we've fallen out of this limitless field of possibilities. Now in the story, of course, it was the snake which tempted Eve to eat of this fruit. Now this is such beautiful wisdom from the ancients, it's beautiful technology, because the snake represents a wave of energy. That's all it means. It's just a wave of energy, and we know from the modern wisdom and understandings of quantum physics that we have possibilities of waves and particles. So when something is in its wave state, it's still a possibility. We might feel an emotion inside of us, and it might be like a constrictive emotion. But when we don't connect with it and say, oh God, I'm feeling like that again, it comes and it goes, because we're open in this limitless field of possibilities. We feel the emotion, but we're aware of what's seen and heard, what's felt, what's tasted and smelled. Okay? So that wave remains a wave, and it doesn't tempt us. But when we are tempted by that wave, it's like the emotions that we feel. Good example, or the presence of other people. You know, so some people somebody might walk into a room. They have a really powerful presence. Might be a positive presence. Might be a scary presence. They might remind us of something from our past, and we feel anxious. So that's a wave that we feel when we witness something like that. And when Adam is not with Eve, when awareness is not fully present in the overall feeling of the body, the warm, sort of tingly aliveness of the body from head to feet, front to back, side to side, okay, when we're not, practically speaking, we're not present right now in this sensory experience, then our bodies, which are kind of, when we're not present, our bodies are very easily waylaid by whatever is like a strong influence in our experience. And so we tend to get pulled into, overawed by somebody else's energy, by our emotions, these kinds of things. Okay? And so when this happens, then the body is the body is tempted, the body is like waylaid by that emotion, and we lose our presence. And in the Garden of Eden myth, it's said that once Eve started to eat and enjoy this fruit, then she got Adam into it as well. Well, this is because if as awareness we are not present in this full sensory experience right now, and our bodies start to develop the habit of going after, just identifying with the feeling of fear or anger or frustration or jealousy, it creates like a momentum to it, doesn't it? It's like a sort of a gravity, a momentum is created inside of us, very, very strong, like a tractor beam pulling us into it. And so, yes, awareness, which is sort of daydreaming about this or about that, it also gets hypnotized by this sort of habitual energy inside of us. And when awareness starts to do that, yeah, then we really start to label things. It's not just that we're afraid of something or other. I mean, this goes all the way back to when we're little children and we're taught language. And prior to language, you know, we might have a loving father or a loving mother, and when we feel their presence, we feel open and we feel good. But we might have an angry mother or father, and when we're with them we feel constricted, we feel afraid. So that's like the anger of the parent was such a strong wave of possibility that because the child wasn't yet conscious, the child had no choice, had no option at that point to be taken over by that wave of possibility, by that snake. And eventually we start to learn language, and we start to tell ourselves, well, okay, well, this is what I'm feeling is the feeling of fear or the feeling of anger, and it comes from my dad or from my mum. Okay? So how do we get out of this? You know, how do we get out of it? Because we know from that beautiful myth that when Adam and Eve were both gorging themselves on the fruit that the snake tempted them to. Again, remember, the fruit is the particle, okay? The snake is the wave. The snake is that feeling of like, oh, I feel afraid, I feel scared, I feel angry, I feel this, I feel happy. But whenever we focus on one thing, one wave of probability, more than the whole field, this limitless field of possibilities right now, then that wave becomes a particle, okay? And that particle is the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. It becomes good, it becomes bad, it becomes habitual anger, habitual jealousy, habitual frustration. And of course that can crystallize into the body as physical illness. And then we're told from this beautiful myth, this beautiful technology, that Adam and Eve had two sons, and this really represents two possibilities. I mean, the sons could also be daughters. It's just two possibilities that happen once we have fallen out of the field of ether, the Garden of Eden. So Cain and Abel, right? These are the two brothers, and Cain offers his crops to God. In other words, not to something outside of yourself or himself, but it offers pretty much, lives from this place of, okay, I'm a farmer and I'm thinking about the future and I might not have enough grain, and it's starting to live in lack. This is what the ancients were telling us. So he offers his crops to God, and God, life, didn't like that, because it's like, well, we're living in the future, we're afraid that we might not have enough. Abel, and this is also at the point where both Cain and Abel are possibilities in you and I, when we're not in the limitless field of the Garden of Eden, Garden of Ether right now, presents his flock to God, to life. And what that's trying to tell us, it's almost like these are the more, we could say, the tribal peoples, the creative, the so-called primitive peoples, who were living much more in the bosom of nature. They were, the hunter-gatherers. They were maybe, they were hunting, but maybe they were keeping some animals as well. And it's like living very, very close to nature, but still, living this sense of separation. So the story is not telling us that growing things is good, and growing things is bad, and raising flocks is good. It's a metaphor. Of course we can grow our garden. Of course we can. We can be vegan, we can be vegetarian, we can be omnivore, we can eat whatever is right for us. Okay? But we shouldn't anyway focus too much on Cain and Abel, except maybe the final word to say is that in that story, Cain kills Abel. So that beautiful myth is telling us that when we're not living in this limitless field of ether, of limitless presence that infuses us and is our original experience right now, that the part of us which thinks about the future, which is more cunning, which is worried about lack, which is less connected with the earth, is going to exploit and kill the part of us which is more connected to the earth, more connected to the animals and to nature. Okay? So, how do we come back? How can we live in the Garden of Eden? Because remember, it's right now, it's not an historical thing. It's not meant to be taken that way. If we take it in an historical sense, then we've already fallen. Because we've got past, we've got present, we've got this future that we're trying to move towards. That's not the Garden of Eden. It's not at all. When we're in the Garden of Eden right now, the Garden of Presence, field of ether, we are fully embodied, consciously aware of this present sensory experience. It's really as simple as that. So again, see if you can bring it back right now. Don't think about your body, but see if you can feel it. The clothing on the skin, the warm, tingly feeling, maybe you can feel in your hands, in your feet, throughout your body. It's a very, very subtle sense of warm aliveness, front to back, side to side, head to feet. Open simultaneously with what is seen, the full field of vision, without sort of looking at one thing or another, and the full field of sound without focusing on one thing or another. And when we're able to do this, it's like the power, the magic of all of these elements provides a nutrition to us. That's what happens. We don't just get our nutrition from food. We get it, or even from air. We get it from light, from the colours, from the sounds, from the smells, the tastes, the sensations. And to the extent that we're able to remain open in a non-judgmental, kind of formless, baby-like open experience, when we are experiencing a wave of contraction within us, the snake is tempting us, we're able to witness in our own experience that it's kind of like a miracle. This is like, wow, this is super cool. I'm not doing anything at all. I'm not trying to breathe into this this emotion. I'm not sending love to it. I'm not doing anything at all. It's amazing. But just by holding this space right now, awareness in this present sensory experience, Adam and Eve together, it's like it's kind of autonomous. It's amazing. It's like a miracle. It's happening all by itself. And so this is our primary job. This is what we're here to do. Before we're whatever we are, a guitar player, driver, president, whatever we do, we are here to hold this present space because we are God. We are the Holy Trinity. We are something which is so mysterious that we don't know anything about it, but we know that out of that comes awareness, because awareness is us, isn't it? It's the Atmans, it's the atoms. Okay, the suns, the SUNs, male and female, sons of God, of Brahman. Okay, and then awareness, wow, has this beautiful experience, and we have this incredible, what we call a human body, beautiful human body, to experience this experiencing, and the body really starts to hurt, doesn't it? It starts to hurt mentally, emotionally and physically when we're not inhabiting it properly, when Adam is not with Eve, because then the snake comes along and we're tempted, and we start to, instead of all of the elements, the ether, the air, fire, water and earth, everything in its place within us and around us, unfolding beautifully and effortlessly, then we start to put more focus on one thing or another. And according to our own personal energetics, you know, we start to experience blockages here, or, you know, anger there, or fear here, or anxiety there, and we feel it, don't we? It doesn't feel good. And we try to think our way out of it. We try to do spiritual practices to get out of it. Nothing wrong with spiritual practices, they're great. But the most primary spiritual practice is what I'm talking about here, is holding this space. So give it a go. When you're on your scooter, you know, when you're on your motorbike, when you're driving, when you're walking down the road, when you're doing whatever you're doing, here right now, whatever you're doing, when you walk into a pub and there's, you know, you're a little anxious, that whole experience that you're walking into, you're not really walking into it at all. You are awareness. You're only walking into it from the level of your mind, which thinks that you're a separate body and a separate experience. It's not true. It's not true. You are just manifesting step by step that pub. That is your experience, or that road unfolding in front of you, or this video screen in front of you right now. This is what's happening, okay? Only when we're coming from the mind, only when we've fallen, when Adam is not with Eve, when we're living in the mind, do we start to create this painful, separate world. I mean, some people are even calling it the prison planet. You know, well, the planet itself is an idea. That's all it is. When we're here and present right now, it's just as we are. You know, we can say this is planet Earth. It's nice, but if we really start living that as some kind of mental thing, then we're going to suffer, because we've dropped out of the Garden of Eden. Okay, so give it a go. Give it a go, and it's you know, you will fall many times, and that's okay, because bang, you can bring yourself back, you can bring awareness back into full sensory experience, fully embodied, head to feet, front to back, side to side, as just a general feeling, open to what is seen, heard, and sometimes tasted and smelled. So give this a go. Give it a go. And I'll see you in the next video.